each of those, I suppose, tend to leave the arts out. I'll come back to that. And there's a reason why. And the reason why is connected also with, ironically, the perceived arrogance of atheists. Because the perceived arrogance of atheists has something to do with the fact that of this faith versus reason issue that comes up between believers and non-believers. And non-believers tend to stick very much to evidence and very much to a scientific or rational criterion of evidence, and very much to reason and argument. And reason, argument, scientific evidence tend to be, to our disadvantage, the bailiwick of secular culture. And so with you, I agree. One of the reasons that they tend to be the bailiwick is because we feel most secure working there. We feel most secure saying, prove it to me, or can you give me evidence? But we should feel more comfortable using both and embracing both imagination and reason, and particularly I'm talking about historical reason and social reason as crucial to us. Historical reason and social reason, which I've just been presenting, don't usually get talked about very much, and they are as important as the scientific and reason. And the imagination is as important. The reason it doesn't get talked about is because people often ask the question, well, what can you demonstrate about it? What can you prove about it? I know it makes life a little nicer, people will think. But what does it do beyond that? And I think there's a built-in problem among us as secularists about dealing with those areas. So rather than answer your question, I want to sort of amplify it and say, no, that's a problem area, and we need to think about it. And we need to realize that it's not just the prove it or the evidence that separates us from religious believers, but it's something more profound, and it has to do with, I would say, immanence rather than transcendence, to use philosophical language. That is to say, we're here on this earth. We're not living beyond this earth. And this earth has a profound, deep history, and this earth contains, and this life, this human life contains all these wonderful examples of human spirit, and human culture, and human artistic creativity, and we live there. So that doesn't, this is the beginning of a discussion, really. I mean, what you've done is I'd like to have a big conversation about it, and I think CFI should have some big conversations about it. Yes?
Can you attach the notion of hope that you talked about and the notion of progress in any sense to the phenomenon of the new atheism and what effect that will have?
I'm not sure how to do it. In the United States, the new atheists, and I'll take credit for naming them, which I did 3 or 4 years ago. New atheists represent a kind of attack on the surrounding, prevailing, stifling, in-your-face religiosity. And many Americans have embraced them because they were a way of breaking into something or breaking with something in the culture. But now you have to look back. 40 years ago, in the United States, Time magazine, April 1966, April 1966, had the famous black cover, red framed, in red letters, "Is God Dead?" And it was an exploration of religion in American culture and the concept of God and how it seemed to be fading. And even the most sophisticated theologians seemed to be abandoning it. 4 years later, John Lennon had the top hit in probably the world. You know the song, Imagine. We all know the Imagine a World Without Religion. And at that point, we might have said these figures, Ingersoll, Russell, who believed in progress, maybe this was secularization coming and something new taking place in the world. Well, what happened? What happened is, in the rest of the advanced world, that process continued. More slowly here, more rapidly in Europe, and the process of secularization happened in some kind of progress. We'd have to measure it. Some sort of progress took place. Very complicated, also, but something took place. In the United States, something went in the exact opposite direction, leading to a massive revival of American religion. Alan Wolf's book is called The Transformation of American Religion. And it's actually a very nicely written sociological study of the ways in which American religion has become more vital, more energized in the last 10, 15, 20 years. So your last question was what happened? And I think the United States is a peculiar country, and we are not making the same kinds of social progress made elsewhere in the world. You know, California referendum, the most advanced state in the United States, voted down what's taken for granted in Canada, gay marriage. So it's...
Canadians, if they would have a chance to vote on it, they would reject it too.
Yes, but you don't have a chance to vote on it.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So let's not think that Canadians are higher than the Californians. Because
Not Canadians higher than Californians, but Canadian society has certain features.
but won't accept gay marriage if they would
Okay.
have a chance to vote on it.
Okay. Yes.
You ask why the reversal trend in the United States as opposed to, say, Europe. I'm just wondering whether during the Cold War, the politicians wanted to face the threat of communism. One way they did it was the military alliances. Another one was ideological struggle. And I think that they used religion and promoted it against those, godless communists.
Godless communists, right.
So I think the politicians, say Reagan, for instance, promoted all this, and it just continued. Because then the politicians realized that they can use religious support to gain power.
I agree with you. We know the Pledge of Allegiance, United States of America, one nation, under God. The under God came in 1954. Originally, the pledge was by a socialist named Bellamy, whose brother wrote a book called Looking Backward. Yes, the Cold War has a lot to do with it, but I want to stress this strange symbiosis in the United States between American religion and the very thin and grudging American welfare state and American individualism. Because I think those exist in a symbiosis in which the United States will not make social progress until that somehow gets broken or softened. Don't ask me how.
That was part of the ideological struggle, too.
Yes, it was part of the ideological struggle. Absolutely.
Promoting
Absolutely.
individualism
Absolutely.
and divisions.
Absolutely. The United States became a more right-wing country. Exactly. Yes.
I'm just curious, you're saying connectivity is at the core of your foundation of what you're promoting. You say there are different dimensions.